So I've talked on this channel before about the Northern Powerhouse. Now, this is an idea I am very, very much behind, because what the Northern Powerhouse aimed to do, unfortunately this idea has been, shall we say, killed by Theresa May and Brexit. I'll explain what the intended purpose was. The whole idea was that we have the north of England from the Scottish borders right down to the Midlands. The idea was to take this entire section of the country and completely rejuvenate it so that the economic strength around the southern part and around London will now be spread out and up in the north as well, so that the country does not solely have to rely on London to be its economic base. This is a brilliant idea. Jobs, infrastructure, it would have been great. And what did we get? Well, Leeds train station got a new south entrance. That was the extent of the of the Northern Powerhouse. That's as far as it got. And there was plans to do an underground tunnel from Manchester underneath the Pennines to Sheffield. But whether that's going to happen or not, I don't know. But needless to say, this idea and the money that Theresa May has said, remember, in Parliament there have already been leaks that May considers the North not worth her time. Because this is what particularly goes to the minds of the Conservative governments. If you're going to invest in an area, why should you invest in an area such as the north of England, or particularly Yorkshire, or even South Yorkshire, where seats have never changed hands, to the point that these are pretty much Labour safe seats? Why should a Tory government give money and invest in a Labour area? After all, it's not going to cause the voters to change their minds. So instead, they give money to Conservative areas, which basically leaves all the Labour areas and any non-Conservative areas high and dry for pretty much 4 years, until the next government comes around. If it's a change, if it's Tory, well, you're out of luck. And this whole idea of the Northern Powerhouse could have been amazing, because this was being pushed by a Conservative. I mean, I was like, when I first heard of it, I thought this isn't going to happen. But it looked more and more as this idea gathered steam. And Brexit happened, dead, gone. Because the UK government were going to put money into it. The EU was going to put money into it. China had seen, was going to invest huge amounts of money in it. But of course, Brexit happened, no more EU money, and with that, China's not going to invest in it, which should say a lot to you. Basically, if you think that we are looking for a good future, then why has China, an idea that it looks so good they were going to invest, China went, no, we're not going to invest. Leaving only the UK government, which then went, no, we're not going to. There needs to be a massive spending on the UK in general. And basically the UK government cannot spend that amount of money that needs to be spent to do it. It's the truth. For example, one of the plans was to improve the railway infrastructure around Manchester. Now, this was going to be great, but one of the things that it wasn't going to do was put a line from Leith to Manchester. Leith, around that area, the Greater Manchester area, is one of the most populous areas around Greater Manchester, yet there is no direct rail link to it. So it makes the biggest world of sense to actually do that. But they weren't going to do it. And now, what I fear, and I think what other people are going to fear, is it's going to happen to what happened to Birmingham, making it essentially another London, is going to happen to Manchester. And we can't, allow that to happen, because what essentially happens to Birmingham and London now is they got all this investing, and it's like throwing money into a black hole. You never see any of the positive outcomes. Now, what really needs to happen is that some of the smaller cities, Sheffield, Leeds, for example, crying out for investment. And then you take the smaller towns. I mean, Christ, what if, you just invested, the amount of money that might be invested in, something like Manchester into a small region, but rather than it go to the cities, it goes to the towns. Just imagine the potential there could be, but there is none of this going to happen during Brexit, because the Conservative government is not going to spend a single penny. It is going to be absolutely tight-lipped. And remember, Brexit, we think is going to happen at some point during this month. But, we don't know. But so much for the Northern Powerhouse. A great idea, surprisingly by a Conservative, which could have done so much good to an area of the UK that hasn't seen a large amount of investment in years, in decades. All just gone because of Brexit. The possibilities make me weep for what could have been. So unless the government ponies up and decides, okay, we're going to actually do the Northern Powerhouse, it won't have the full money to do it. Which basically means it'll all get thrown towards Manchester. That means all the other areas of the north will get forgotten about. And Manchester will just become another London, Birmingham lookalike that gets all this wonderful investment, which doesn't make a lick of difference. But there you go.